This is the MO Sessions podcast, where we talk about magic ways to become a better magician to be good to your magic. I'm your host, Benny Slade, and I couldn't be any more thrilled that you are here. Instead of making an episode of why I think magicians should be creating and performing magic a certain way, I think it would be beneficial to talk about some interesting things that I've been exploring in magic lately. I've been reading, kind of gone down this rabbit hole with Vernon. Although during the pandemic, for those of you who were part of the podcast or actively listening, know that I'm a pretty big Marlowe fan, still am, but I've also kind of broken down that barrier, as I've said before. I'm just exploring everybody. I've even gotten into Ross Bertram, which I think is really interesting. I think Vernon has great knowledge. I have begun reading the Vernon Touch, which I might, like I've said, I think I've said it a few times already. I might do a couple episodes on the Vernon Touch and just some things that he talks about in the book. Already in the first quarter of the book, my mind is just completely fascinated by the advice he has and how you should be performing magic and where he thinks magic should be performed, and it's just an incredible book. I've also kind of been reading the Johnny Thompson books and watching, for those of you who may or may not know, Vanishing Ink had a sale on Johnny Thompson's commercial magic videos, which I highly recommend taking a look at. I do think it is Johnny Thompson at his best, and I've also heard Paul Vigil talk about Johnny Thompson a lot, and his thoughts on the videos, and they're great for commercial magic. I think commercial magic is kind of watering it down a little bit because I think they're more classical effects. So that's just my thoughts and my opinions. I have gone into a deep rabbit hole regarding the Neat Review and Alex Hansford. I highly recommend his work along with the materials he has and is producing. There are some great effects and sleights within those pages. The one that sticks out the most besides the actual Neat Reviews is Andrew Frost's Double Lift book. Now, for me, like when I'm learning magic, and I have a whole other episode coming out about how to practice magic and that sort of thing. For me to have an entire book on just one sleight or one move or, variations, just page after page, I think is really interesting. I enjoy books like that. It allows me to understand the progression of like how to perform a sleight better or in different ways. Johnny Thompson says something interesting in the videos, his commercial magic videos, about not everybody can. He's teaching this effect, and he explains that one of the things you need to do for the effect is to do a bottom deal. And he explains not everybody can do a bottom deal. And so when you have a book like the Double Lift book, it's really interesting to me because here's something with however many pages of just one thing. So if you can't do it on page A, look at the one on page B. Page B is not interesting, go to page C. And that's kind of what I like about that, the Double Lift book. I think it's really smart. I've come across other books like that. They're kind of not very common. I will say one of the newest ones I picked up was Florian. I'm looking at it. Florian by Hector Chadwick. And I think it's an incredible book just on the coin toss. And I absolutely love it. It's not a really big book. It's a great, 1 day, 2 day read if you dive into it. It's just fascinating. It's just fascinating that there's a one subject. Some other things I'll mention is the new Ackerman books by Vanishing Ink are a very notable suggestion by me. Amazing. Again, the way that book is written, like in terms of like when you look at the index of what's in the book, it's all broken up. It's all broken up into slights and routines, and it's just great. And I just feel like it's different than most books in the way it's broken up. Notable memberships that I've kind of would recommend checking out is, of course, friend of the podcast, Shane Cobalt's. I would definitely check his membership out. It's definitely one that I recommend. And Andrew Frost's membership is actually really good. If there's any other memberships that you think I should mention on here, I would definitely check that out. Lately, I've been waiting to read. Steve Reynolds has a book coming out on the ORAM files. Now, the ORAM files is really interesting because, to me, I feel like they're obscure, but they may not be. It took me almost 2 years to find an almost complete set. I'm still missing 2 or 3 issues, but there's some stuff in there that, well, I'll say this. If you want to keep a secret, you put it in a book. I've heard that time and time again. There's a lot of good gems in there that Magic is not incorporating today. And if they are, it's probably a variation or it's just different. But if you can get your hands on Steve Reynolds' new book when it comes out, the ORAM files, he tells me that's going to be a hardcover book, so I'm really looking forward to that. And I actually think it's on pre-order right now. I'm not 100% sure. But if it is, definitely grab a copy because it's worth it. That's all I have for you today. It's a simple episode about just some of the things I've been reading and keeping in touch with. And I'll see you on the next episode.